Dear students, I will present a very simple slide about Ishwar sir's profile. Is the screen come on, Jay?
Yeah, it is there.
Yeah. Mr. Ishwar Achanta is Managing Director of Portman India Private Limited and Indo-Pacific Solution. He is member National Shipping Board, Ministry of Ports, Shipping and Waterways, Government of India Gazette appointment with the Ministry of Shipping. He is President the Chennai Port Stevedores Association. He is President Federation of Association of Stevedores. He is member Advisory Committee Dock Safety DGFA SLI Ministry of Labor Employment, Government of India Gazette appointment under Ministry of Labor and Employment. He is former trustee of Visakhapatnam Port Trust 2004-2008, Gazette appointment by Ministry of Shipping, and former trustee of Chennai Port Trust 2009-14, Gazette appointment by Ministry of Shipping. So this is the profile of the guest lecture you're having today. And you guys should be actually privileged to have a high profile person going to address to you.
Very interesting to see your for your journey. Obviously accomplished quite a bit. I can only wish you guys the very best. As you make this effort to provide some qualification to youngsters, into our business. Yeah, congratulations. But then I saw.
Thank you.
Picture of my old friend in your first convocation.
He was the person who gave the name BS. A
good friend of mine, and
I used to work with him in APL, and before, I mean, Ranjit was our ultimate boss, but I used to report to Hamid. He was a very charming guy. I mean, it was very unfortunate. He was a guy who created the name. Me and Jayesh were toying with the idea of how to give a name, and so
good.
He was
congratulations.
We owe him a lot.
Good morning to all of you, youngsters, Jayashri, the staff of BSLS, right?
BSLS, yeah.
And my old friend John, my old colleague John,
yes,
I had the pleasure of working with. Perhaps, as he said earlier, shaping some thoughts of his. So, well done, John. You've
thank you, Ishwar.
Very well for yourself, and congratulations on this very noble venture. I mean, I know it is still a commercial venture, but still to impart training, knowledge, want to do that is important. So I've spent 15 years in the Indian Maritime University. I have only one module. I refuse to go and teach elsewhere. I take a session for the Indian Economic Service Officers. The IES is, I think it's Mr. Manmohan Singh's service as well. So these are the economists who go out and work in every department of the government of India. So every year the IMU brings the probationers into the university, and once in 2 years they bring serving officers. So that's my job, to introduce ports and shipping to them, and I enjoy it because so many times I've been stopped at the airports and people have said, "Thank you, sir," and I don't know who they are, but they say, "Okay, you came to our session 15 years ago." It gives me a lot of pleasure. I'm sure it gives you and Jesh a lot of pleasure too,
yes,
to work with
absolutely
youngsters, and and as you showed me 2 pictures of your students you met in Dubai and Sharjah. It must give me a lot of pleasure to see them there. So I have called this the keynote address. Okay, I know normally a keynote is when you have a convocation or a passing out. I'm going to use this opportunity to try and convey a sense of what's out there, particularly when the whole world has been decimated by COVID, and COVID is on everybody's lips now, and even excuses that should not have the word COVID have been thrown with the word COVID. So what we're trying to do actually in our business and in our life, in our federations, associations, is to demystify COVID, to segregate what is really affected by COVID and what's not. So I hope to take you youngsters through my journey, and then perhaps give you a small insight on what the future holds for you, because all of you are still students, and after this you will be trying to make a career out of the industry of logistics, which is a it's a gamut of jobs, different types of jobs that you can do. So John was very kind to show something out there on the screen. I'm not an overtly religious man. Don't get me wrong. I don't spend hours in a temple. I don't sit before a mandir. But I can tell you that one never forgets where one came from. In the Bible you have ashes to ashes, dust to dust, and that's exactly what it is for every human being. In life, one can never ever forget what our origins were, what our roots were, where we have come from, what we've had to do in that journey to reach where we have reached, and the people that we have helped, hurt as well, because in our anxiety we tend to hurt people, and all of these are revelations that you must be prepared to learn and absorb in the journey. Now, on the if anybody is a Telugu on the screen, and I'm a Telugu, okay, Achanta is a surname, would understand what I've written on the left side. The name of Ram is bigger than Ram himself. Okay. And that's Ram I've used because I'm a Hindu, but that holds true for any religion that you practice. Okay. The fact is that when you can begin to acknowledge, you don't have to be an overt believer, as I said. I started life as an atheist. I didn't have any belief at all. Then I moved from being an atheist to an agnostic. And today, I acknowledge that where I am today is only because of his benevolence. And that acknowledgement helps me, keeps me grounded, right? It keeps me balanced. Even in those rare moments when I feel very elevated, elated, very euphoric, I take a moment off to say that the name of Ram is bigger than Ram himself. And that helps me deal with not only successes, it helps me deal with failures. Now, if you read what Lord Rama said to Lakshman, yes, we have no right to ask when a sorrow comes. Why did this happen to me? But did we ask that question when something good happened? Did we even stop for a moment to say, thank you, God, for what you did? All we can do is complain. This didn't happen. That didn't happen. I don't have this. I don't have that. I went to school. Some of you may have heard of the school. It's called Padma Shishadri. And one of the most eminent educationists, Mrs. Y.G. Parthasarathi, was our principal. And I was in school in the late 60s and the 70s. And when schooling was nothing like what it is today. And she always taught us, if at all we learned anything in leadership roles, it started from there. And she would always tell us to look at the half glass of milk that is full and not the half glass that is empty. So I think the Bible says, count your blessings. So the first element of anything, if at all you want to read this as a lesson, is please never ever take anything for granted. Be aware that there is the benevolence of something. If you don't believe in a superior being, fair enough. But just be aware that the benevolence of something is always, guiding us. Now, I left home. So people may think that I come from a very privileged background. Actually, it's quite the contrary. I come from a very stable background. My grandmother was a freedom fighter. Those of you who live in Madras know that Marshall's Road is named after Rukmini Lakshmipati, who was my grandmother, my dad's mother. So when my grandmother was being beaten up by the British fighting for freedom, my father was saluting the Union Jack on the British Merchant Marine. He joined the Merchant Marine in World War II, 1942, because my grandmother told him that sooner than later, India would be free, and India needed young men like my father, trained by the British, in the ways of the British, to take India forward. That's the background I came from. So my dad went to the Merchant Navy. Okay, he came ashore in 1958. I was 14 years old when he retired. He said to us, my daughter is married. I'm a very simple man. I have enough to live a simple life. Now you guys go and fend for yourself. So you can imagine at the age of 14, if there was anything called a luxury tap, that got turned off very quickly. So that prompted me and that necessitated me to leave home at the age of 17 to join the merchant navy. And that's not what kids of my age were doing then. Those days it was all about IIT. Either you were an engineer or a doctor, or the whole life was revolving around being that. But I didn't have those chances, so I had to take the next best, and I had to go and join a ship at a very tender age of 17. Of course, today kids of 17 are a lot more, perhaps a lot more aware, thanks to technology, thanks to all those tools. But for us, during the 80s, 70s, and 80s, it was a very difficult time. So the reason I write those ages there is not to tell you that I'm a great guy. I told you I'm a very ordinary man. I have never, ever aspired for any one of those positions that are there on the right side. It happened to me, and because I think of two things. It's because of the benevolence and because of the hard work that I put in. I had a very single-minded focus to my job, okay? And I did that to the best of my abilities. And to me, to start a company when I was 31, I had no idea. Believe me, ladies and gentlemen, I had zero idea. I got fed up of working for KJ Ramaswamy. That's our John's and my boss. I had gone out and I'd come back when I was 30 years old. And I got fed up and I said to myself, the hell with him. I walked out of that company. I went, sat in one place, and I started a company. I had no idea what I was doing, but I did it. And I've had my ups and downs. I've had joint venture partners go bankrupt. Even as early as last year, owing me millions of dollars in a joint venture ship. So all of that has happened. But if I could become a trustee of a port, and I don't know how many of you know what meaning of a trustee is. The word trustee actually means what it is. The government of India trusts us to give proper guidance and direction to the chairman of the port. And at that time, Vizag was India's largest port. We were doing 65 million tons. In 2004 when I went on the board, and there was no looking back after that. I was very lucky that as I aged and as I picked up a lot of gray hair on my chin, I did make my mistakes. Everybody will make mistakes. You will make a mistake. You will make many mistakes. Let me guarantee that. I will write it and give it to you. But the key would be for you to recognize that you made those mistakes and correct them. It's only the foolish who would not recognize the mistake and make amends, from that mistake. So if somebody like me with a very modest background, okay, I had a very, let's say, a disturbed education for the simple reason it wasn't structured like how it is today. I was in the merchant navy. I was out of the merchant navy. I went back to the ships. I was in between ships. I was trying to study. I was trying to earn a living. I took a job when I was 19 years old. I was selling industrial calculators and filing systems to banks when I was 19 years old. I had a day job. I was earning 1,200 rupees or something like that at that time. And I was educating myself, later in the evening. So I had a very, a kind of a fractured, let's say a teenage or a early 20s. So for me to be able to get something like this, I only attribute it to two things: is the benevolence of my maker, and the fact that I did whatever came to me diligently. I never looked for the next step. I never worked with an intention to say, now next I will do this or I will achieve that, right? So that was how it was then. And of course, times change, people change, attitudes change. The youngsters of today are not the youngsters that John and I were. John is, of course, younger to me, but he still is about the same era. But definitely the youngsters today are not the same. So I want to leave this slide with you with the thought, young ladies and gentlemen, that it's not impossible for you to do this or even better. The fact that I preside over 50,000 stevedores in this country. I'm the president of the Federation of Association of Stevedores. If I start telling you the names of the people who were my predecessors, you would stand up and bow. I do that every morning. Every day I get up and I say thanks to those fantastic men And unfortunately, there were no women who led us over the years, because, as I said, the waterfront business is a very tough business, and it's only now we're encouraging young women to come on and work with us. And they were stalwarts of the shipping industry, and these were the people who, who fought the system, who brought, the waterfront uh, to where it was. So if there is something I did as president of the Chennai Port Stevedores Association, I made this a little more genteel. We were perhaps known as mafia so in the port, but we're actually not. So I was able to bring a little bit more, legitimacy and gentleness into the system. So I want you to take this away with you, that wherever you are, whatever your background is, whichever little town you are sitting in right now, whatever it is that your parents are doing, never forget that you have 3 square meals a day, you have a roof above your head, and you have a conveyance that doesn't let you walk. Be grateful for that and use that as a base to tell yourself that you can do it and you will do it. Because if an ordinary guy like me can who had a very humble beginning, and I still consider myself as a very ordinary person, can do all of this, then the sky is the limit for young minds like you. And have faith. The key is have faith. You don't have to go to temple every day. You don't have to go to church, the mosque. But just have faith. Just believe in yourself. That also is a form of faith. Believe in yourself is also a form of faith.